All right. So today we're diving into something I think you're going to find really interesting.
Yeah.
It's the triple bottom line.
The TBL.
Or TBO for short. And,
All right.
I think a lot of our listeners are probably business owners or aspiring business owners or people who are really interested in how businesses can kind of thrive
Absolutely.
in this day and age while also, being good for the world.
Right. And it's a hot topic these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
And we get this really cool article from Continuous Improvement that we're going to be looking at today.
Love that article.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And it's going to kind of help us unpack this whole concept of the triple bottom line.
When I first heard about the triple bottom line, I thought it was just about adding a bit more green to your business.
Right.
But it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's really about changing the way we think about success in business.
I'll admit, I used to think it was kind of like a fluffy concept.
Yeah. I get that.
Just like a PR move for companies.
Right. Yeah.
But what I'm getting from this article is that the TBL is actually like a really powerful framework for, redefining what success really means.
Yeah, and it's a framework.
Yeah. So let's break it down.
Okay.
What are the 3 Ps? People, planet, and profit.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that it's not about sacrificing one for the other.
Right. Like some people think.
You don't have to sacrifice profit to be good for the planet or good for your people.
Right.
It's really about recognizing that all 3 are interconnected.
Okay.
And that in the long run, a company can't really be successful without addressing all of them. It's like a 3-legged stool. You need all 3 legs for it to stand.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
But honestly, sometimes this stuff sounds a little too idealistic to me.
Right.
Are there really companies out there who are actually making this work?
Oh, yeah.
In practice?
Absolutely. And that's what I find so fascinating about the TBL.
Okay.
It's not just theory.
Right.
It's actually happening.
Okay.
Companies are doing this.
Awesome.
All sizes, all industries.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So later on, we'll get into some cool examples of companies that are really walking the walk.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So let's unpack each of these, legs of the stool.
Okay.
Starting with people.
All right.
What does that mean?
So people in the TBL, it's not just about following basic labor laws.
Okay.
It's really about how a company treats all its stakeholders.
Okay.
From the employees to the customers
Right.
to the communities where they operate.
Mm-hmm.
Think fair wages,
Okay.
safe working conditions, diversity and inclusion initiatives, giving back to the community. Things like
Gotcha.
this.
So it's really about creating a positive impact
Yes.
on the lives of anyone
Exactly.
who interacts with the business.
It's about going beyond just do no harm to actually making things better.
Right. So not just avoiding harm, but actually actively improving things.
Yes. And I think that's a really important shift
Okay.
that we're seeing. Companies are moving away from just trying to minimize their negative impact.
Right.
And they're starting to actually think about using their resources and their power to create positive social change.
That's awesome. But I guess that raises the question, doesn't all this good stuff cost money? They'll want that cut into their profits.
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
And that's where the profit leg of the stool comes in.
Right.
The TBL doesn't say that profit is a bad thing.
Okay.
It just says that you need to achieve those profits in a responsible and sustainable way.
So how did that actually work in practice?
Right.
How can a company be both profitable and socially responsible?
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like those things would kind of be at odds with each other?
It can be tricky.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But there are more and more companies proving that it can be done.
Okay.
That it is possible to do well by doing good.
Okay.
And, the article actually highlights some key benefits of embracing the TBL that can actually boost a company's bottom line.
Okay. I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
All right. So for starters, there's brand reputation.
Okay.
These days consumers are way more aware of where their money's going.
Right.
They want to support businesses that share their values.
Yeah.
Businesses that are making a positive impact on the world.
Right.
So if a company has a reputation for being socially responsible, they're more likely to attract customers.
Good.
And that means more profits.
So basically it's if you have a good reputation for being socially responsible, you're more likely to get customers, which means more profit.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just customers, it's also investors. They're starting to see that companies with strong social and environmental practices are actually less risky investments in the long run.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not just about like warm, fuzzy feelings.
Right.
It's actually becoming like a smart business strategy.
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And then there's employees. Right. Especially younger generations. They want to work for companies they believe in, companies that are making a difference.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Right. Yeah. You want to feel like your work matters.
Exactly, yeah.
So, if employees are happy and engaged, they're going to be more productive.
Right.
And that also has a positive impact on the company's profits.
Okay, so we talked about people.
Yes.
We touched on profit a bit. What about the planet aspect of the TBL?
So the planet part of the TBL is all about reducing a company's environmental footprint.
Okay.
Which is obviously becoming more and more critical.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's a new report about like climate change or pollution or some other environmental crisis.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And the TBL is really pushing businesses to take responsibility for their impact on the planet.
So what kind of things are companies actually doing to address this?
Well, it really varies.
Right.
Some companies are really focused on reducing their carbon emissions by switching to renewable energy sources or by investing in energy efficiency. Other companies are working on reducing waste through recycling programs or by finding ways to use fewer resources in their production processes.
So it's not just about like planting a few trees here and there. Yeah. It's about actually like fundamentally changing.
It's about systemic change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's about looking at the whole system and finding ways to make it more sustainable.
And what's interesting is I'm hearing that these changes can actually lead to cost savings for the companies in the long run.
Yeah, often they do.
Really? How so?
Well, for example, if a company invests in energy efficiency, they might have a higher upfront cost, but over time, they'll save money on their energy bills.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about being altruistic.
Right. Yeah.
It's actually about making smart business decisions.
Exactly.
That are good for the company and for the environment.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a shift in how we think about business, moving away from that old idea of profit at any cost and toward a more, holistic approach where we think about the long-term well-being of the company, the people it affects, and the planet.
I'm starting to see how the TBL is a lot more than just a trendy buzzword.
Yeah.
It really is like a framework for a new way of doing business.
It is.
But I'm also realizing it's probably way more complex than it might seem on the surface.
Yeah. One of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to measure the social and environmental impact.
Right.
I mean, it's easy to measure profits, right?
Yeah.
But how do you measure things like employee well-being?
Right.
Or a company's contribution to the community?
Yeah. That's a great point. It seems like it'd be tough to come up with standardized metrics for that kind of thing.
It's tough. Yeah. It's a challenge. But even without perfect metrics, companies can still make progress, by setting clear goals and then tracking their progress over time.
Okay.
Being intentional and being transparent about their efforts.
Okay.
Even if they don't have all the answers yet.
It's like that saying, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Exactly.
But okay, so let's say you can measure it.
Right.
How do you actually balance all these competing priorities?
Right.
I mean, sometimes doing what's best for the planet might mean spending more money.
Yeah.
Which could impact profits.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution. Each company has to figure out what works for them, their industry, the specific challenges they face.
Right.
But what I find encouraging is that more and more companies are recognizing that these challenges are worth tackling.
Okay.
That, investing in sustainability in the long term, even if it means making some tough choices in the short term is the way to go.
So it's not just about doing the easy things.
Right.
It's about making a real commitment to change.
Absolutely.
Even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
Are there any examples of companies that are kind of doing this well?
Oh, yeah.
Like navigating these tricky trade-offs between people, planet, and profit.
Remember how I said we'd talk about some real-world examples?
Yes.
Well, let's dive into a few.
Okay.
The article mentions Patagonia as a company that's really leading the way when it comes to environmental sustainability.
Oh, yeah. Patagonia. I love their stuff.
Right.
They're always talking about saving the planet.
Yeah, and they're not just talking about it.
Right.
They're actually doing it.
Okay.
They use recycled materials in their clothing.
Go.
They support fair labor practices throughout their supply chain. And they donate a significant portion of their profits to environmental causes.
That's impressive, but they're also like a premium brand, right?
Yeah.
Their stuff is pretty expensive. So I wonder if that's part of how they can afford to be so environmentally conscious.
It's a good point. Their prices are definitely on the higher end.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that they've built this really loyal customer base who are willing to pay a premium for products that align with their values.
So their commitment to sustainability has actually become a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just Patagonia, Unilever, another huge multinational corporation. They've implemented this really comprehensive sustainable living plan that tackles issues like climate change, deforestation, plastic waste.
Wow. That sounds really ambitious.
It is.
But I mean, isn't it hard for a company that big?
Yeah.
To make those kinds of changes?
It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And coordination, for sure.
Yeah.
But they've shown that it's possible.
Okay.
Even for a global giant like Unilever to integrate sustainability into their core business strategy.
Okay.
And they're finding that it's good for business.
Okay.
You know, their sustainable brands are actually growing faster than their other brands.
Wow.
And they're attracting top talent.
Okay.
Because people want to work for a company that's doing good in the world.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some big international companies.
Yeah.
What about something a little closer to home?
Sure.
Are there any businesses in our region that are really like embracing the TBL?
Absolutely. The article highlights City Developments Limited, or CDL, a real estate company based in Singapore.
Okay. Real estate. That's not the first industry that comes to mind when I think of sustainability.
Right.
But I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
Buildings use a ton of energy and resources.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And CDL has really shown that it's possible to build, you know, beautiful, functional buildings that are also energy efficient, environmentally friendly, and that, you know, contribute to the well-being of the community.
So it seems like the TBL isn't just for like niche companies or specific industries.
Not at all.
It can really transform any business.
I think so.
Regardless of its size or sector?
Yeah, it's a framework that can be adapted and applied to any business context.
So, okay, let's say a company is ready to embrace the TBL.
All right.
Where do they even begin?
Yeah.
It seems kind of overwhelming.
It can be.
Yeah.
But the article offers some practical steps.
Okay.
The first step is to define clear goals.
Okay, that makes sense. You got to know where you're going before you figure out how to get there.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's important to set goals for each of the 3 Ps.
Okay.
People, planet, and profit.
Gotcha.
You know, what do you want to achieve in terms of social impact, environmental impact,
right,
financial performance?
So you're setting targets for each of those areas.
Exactly.
And figuring out how to track progress over time.
And it's not just about setting goals within the company.
Okay.
It's also about engaging with stakeholders outside the company.
Stakeholders like customers, employees, investors, that kind of thing.
All of those and more.
Okay.
The community suppliers, even competitors.
Wow.
It's about creating a dialogue, working together to find solutions that benefit everyone.
It seems like a lot of work.
It can be.
But I can see how it would be valuable.
Yeah.
Like you're building trust and transparency.
Absolutely. And you're getting buy-in from everyone who's affected by the company's decisions.
Right.
The more people who are involved in the process, the more likely the company is to succeed in achieving its TBL goals.
Okay, so set clear goals, engage stakeholders. What else?
The next step is to integrate the TBL into the company's overall business strategy.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really interesting because it's about moving beyond just doing a few good deeds here and there.
Right.
It's about making sustainability a core part of the company's DNA.
So it's like it's not just a side project. It's actually part of...
It's how you do business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's woven into every aspect of the business.
Exactly.
Okay.
From product development and marketing to supply chain management and employee training.
That's a pretty big shift. I imagine that would require a lot of changes within a company.
It can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Especially for companies that are used to doing things a certain way.
Right.
But I think it's a challenge worth taking on.
Okay.
Because it's about creating a business that's not just profitable, but also purpose-driven.
So it sounds like, embracing the TBL is like a journey.
It is.
Not just like a destination.
It's an ongoing process of continuous improvement.
So it's about like constantly evolving and finding new ways to create value for everyone involved.
For all stakeholders, not just shareholders.
Exactly. That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
I'm curious, thinking about all the industries out there, which ones do you think would benefit the most from adopting this TBL approach?
That's a great question. I think every industry could benefit from at least considering these principles.
Okay.
But if I had to pick a few, I'd say the ones with a really big environmental footprint.
Okay.
Like energy, manufacturing, transportation.
Okay.
Those industries are facing a lot of pressure to clean up their act.
Yeah, for sure.
And the TBL offers a way to do that while still remaining competitive.
So it's not just about avoiding regulations or bad press or whatever.
Right.
It's actually about finding new ways to operate.
It's about innovation.
Yeah.
It's about turning those challenges into opportunities.
Right.
And, it's not just about the big companies either.
Right.
Smaller businesses, startups.
Okay.
They can use the TBL to really differentiate themselves and attract customers who are looking for businesses that align with their values.
Right. It's kind of like that saying, doing good is good business.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like the TBL is really putting that into practice.
It is, yeah.
In a concrete way.
That's a framework for action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been a really interesting deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
We learned that the TBL is more than just a buzzword.
Right.
It's actually a framework for a new way of doing business.
Yeah.
That, prioritizes people, planet, and profit.
All three.
We talked about some of the challenges and opportunities of this approach.
We did.
And saw how real companies are putting it into practice.
Real world examples.
So yeah, this has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
So for our listeners who are, fired up about the TBL, what's one thing they can do today to kind of support businesses that are embracing this approach?
I would say be a conscious consumer.
Okay.
Do your research. Support businesses that are transparent about their practices. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Your choices have power.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
Every purchase we make is kind of like a vote.
It is.
For the kind of world we want to live in.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's choose wisely.
Let's do it.
All right, and that's a wrap on our deep dives into the triple bottom line.
Thanks for having me.
I hope this has given you all some food for thought.
Yeah.
And maybe even inspired you to take action.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this with you.
Yeah, likewise. Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better world.
Absolutely.